Hi, welcome back to the Weekly Why. This week we have Parsha Vayishlach. There's a few key ideas in this parsha. One of them has to do with Jacob and Esau and some of the chronicles of the life of Jacob. But there's one idea I want to approach, and that is the name change of Jacob to Israel. So what happens is that when Jacob is wrestling with an angel, and that's an entire discussion into itself, this angel gives Jacob a new name, calling him Israel. Now, there's one major difference between this and the other examples. I mean, we have already seen two examples of people's names being changed. We have Sarah and Abraham. Their names were Sarai and Avram. Sarai became Sarah, and Avram or Abram became Abraham or Avraham. So nothing's really so different. But the major difference, though, is that Sarai and Avram, once they became Sarah and Abraham, it didn't change back. They weren't referred to them as Sarai and Avram. They were referred to by their changed names. Whereas here, with Jacob becoming Israel, major difference is that Jacob is still called Jacob later, even after his name is changed to Israel. So that's the major exception to the rule here. So the major difference, I think, is that, first of all, we have to appreciate that in Hebrew, names have special significance. For example, in Bereshit, in Genesis, where Adam is charged with the responsibility of giving names to all the animals, this isn't just some haphazard thing, he just throws names at them. Each name he gives has some indication, some relevance to their character. For example, Kelev, meaning a dog, means really like a heart. So what that means is a dog, it's loyal, it's loving, it's kind, it's gentle, it's like a heart. So really that's kind of a very nice, kind of a cutesy way of looking that all these words in Hebrew really have significance. Okay, so let's get back to the concept of Yaakov, Jacob, and Israel. It doesn't quite help us, though, until we know exactly what the names mean. So we have Yaakov, Jacob. He was a person, means really by the heel. So here's a person who was always tormented. And it doesn't just mean that when he was born, he was grabbing onto his brother Esau's heel, but that really signifies everything in his entire life. I mean, his life was really beaten down, and he was constantly tormented by his brother Esau, then by his brother Lavan, where he basically spent 14 years as a slave before he could marry his wife Rachel. So he was really just a beaten down kind of guy. Whereas afterwards, when his name was changed to Yisrael, although it means struggle with man and God, the key word there is sar, which means noble. So even though before he was a guy who was holding on to the heel, basically, of life, so to speak, just barely getting by, he later became a noble. Now, it doesn't mean that things were easy for him. I mean, he still had plenty of tragedies. His son Joseph was sold into slavery in Egypt. His daughter Dinah was raped by Shem. So it's not to say that his life was easy, but the major difference is that he became somebody whose life was characterized by basically just keeping his head above water, and it changed to, he had plenty of suffering and trial in his life, but it became somebody who at least he had that measure of of regalness, of nobility in his life. And really, that's the parallel for the Jewish people, is that the Jewish people, not unlike Jacob, we have both the terrible persecution, but ultimately we also have the great successes as well. And so I think that the lesson we can take from this is to try to learn from his examples and to not necessarily overemphasize the negative. So yes, Jacob had some terrible experiences in his life, but ultimately he's still father of the Jewish people and of the 12 tribes. And so we should look similarly at the experience of the Jewish people and say, you know what, there's plenty of history of persecution, of pogroms and Holocaust and all that, but at the same time, it's due to the Jewish people that the concept of ethical monotheism exists in the world, and it's because of the Jewish people that ultimately the Messianic age will descend upon us. So sometimes when we put our perspective in that manner, it can hopefully not only let us live with the bad stuff, but hopefully we'll have a deeper appreciation for it, recognizing that it was only because of that the Jewish people can have the impact that they do. So that's it for Parsha Vayishlach. Best wishes, Shabbat Shalom, God bless.